I'd like to convene the meeting of the October 5th City Council meeting. I'd like you to stand and join Austin and the rest of us in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, guys. I do have, we have the roll, please.
Belzak,
Here.
Clistic,
Here.
Gustafson,
Here.
Kenny,
Here.
Shower,
Here.
Sullivan, here, Vaughn,
Here.
7 present.
We have a quorum. Takes us to questions, comments, and announcements of a general nature. This is a segment of our meeting where individuals who do not want to wait till the end of the meeting or to the agenda item comes up to make a comment, or they may have something that is not even on our agenda that they'd like to present. And again, I'm going to remind everybody that we're going to be monitoring 3 minutes. Again, if it deals with a particular topic on our agenda, we deal with the facts and the issue and not with personalities. And again, I will interrupt you and have you seated or leave if you fail to abide by those rules. So does anyone have anything they'd like to add to the, or present to the council at this point? Please come to the microphone and state your name.
Hello, I'm Elizabeth Monahan.
Pardon me?
Elizabeth Monahan.
Thank you.
For the majority of families in the suburbs that raise chicken, backyard hens are pets, not agricultural livestock. We hand raise them from chicks and bond with them just like kittens, puppies, or other family pets. Our children name them and watch them as they grow. Each hen has their own personality. Some like to be held and petted, and some do not. I had one sit on my lap and took a nap while I read a book outside. I watch them quietly move around the yard and do their little chicken business. And it's strangely calming, and it actually has a name, Chicken TV. I can sit and watch them for hours. They are like therapy animals to me. When comparing dogs to chickens, 6 chickens take about as much space as 1 large dog, but their output of waste is less in volume than dogs and much easier to clean up. In the yard, a simple hose down or rain shower and the waste is gone. And it is fertilizing your grass at the same time. Chicken poop is gold in terms of fertilizer, whereas dog and cat poop do not rinse away and cannot be used as fertilizer. Hens' noise level and quantity of noise is also significantly lower than dogs. Hens only make noise loud enough to travel to the neighbor's yard, either when they see a predator, which is rare, or when they announce they have laid an egg, usually about once every other day. Some chickens never sing this egg announcement song. Some sing for a minute, some for more. Chickens are not just pets, but they also provide the added benefits of fresh, rich, healthy eggs. I am not farming. I do not sell my produce, flowers, or eggs that I grow, nor do I think I save any money by growing them at home. It is a hobby that has the bonus of providing healthy food. There is also more variety when you raise chickens from home. Mass producers pick only a few varieties of chicken that lay the most eggs per year. Hence, your only options in the store are white or brown eggs. Those eggs have watery whites, pale yellow yolks, and thinner shells. This is because eggs are a month old before they even reach the shelves at the supermarket, and factory hens do not have a diverse diet. Also, the quality of life for these chickens is extremely poor. The eggs from my spoiled hens come in beautiful variety of colors like blue, green, pink, and speckled dark brown. Besides a variety of shell colors, the shells are harder, the whites are thicker, and the yolks are a deep, rich orange. This is due to their freshness and higher nutrient content from having a more rich and varied diet. Quality eggs from happy, healthy hens. Please allow myself and the other chicken owners in Darien to keep raising and enjoying these wonderful family pets in our backyards.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
I'd say
If You know, we're going to have the ordinances with regard to chickens later, so if you could wait until then and present, as we have another segment on our agenda for that. I'd like to get through the beginning of the meeting so the people here for the Heart of Darien and the financial report can give their reports, get their awards, and then leave, and then we can concentrate on the rest. I beg your assistance in that matter. Thank you. It takes us to approval of minutes for September 21st, 2020. Do I have a motion to approve? Alderman Kennedy, second by Alderman Shower. Any questions or comments?
Am I going to call Kennedy all night or Kenny?
Anything?
Listed.
Tom?
Not with regard to the agenda, but I got a text that YouTube's not working, that it's not streaming, so I'm not sure if they have it working yet.
YouTube is not working?
Correct. So we just want to check that.
So for them. Okay.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
No, I have to do the roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Forgetting myself. Go ahead, Joanne.
My fault.
Kenny,
Aye.
Shower,
Aye.
Vaughn,
Lester? You said aye.
Sullivan. Aye. Gustafson,
Abstain.
Clistic,
Aye.
Belzak,
Aye.
6 ayes and 1 abstention.
Takes us to receiving of communications. Do any of the aldermen have communications for the council? Alderman Gustafson?
I did receive an email from Charlotte Perry from the 7700 block of Wakefield, just voicing her opinion against allowing chickens.
Thank you. Alderman Clistak?
Thank you, Mayor. Like many of elected officials, we all received a lot of emails for and against the chickens, and I think there's too many to go one by one and list them all. So what I did is I picked one that sort of tugged at the heart, that I sort of concur a little bit with. And I just want to quickly read it here since we're receiving communications. Hello, my name is Athena, and I live at 911 Hickory Lane. It is brought to my attention to reach out to my mayor and aldermen regarding banning chickens in Darien. I was informed of a meeting Monday to discuss this issue. Unfortunately, I could not make it due to it being such a short notice of my eldest son having a Boy Scout Troop 101 meeting and my youngest having a Cub Scout Den meeting. When the pandemic began, I think many of us were unaware how long this would last, nor how long the shortage of food or items in the store would last as well. With this being said, we decided chickens may be our best interest, providing for a family of eggs, but also showing our boys responsibility in how to take care of them. We have 5 hens, which our boys are extremely attached to and have named them Big Mama, Sassy, Timid, Copper, and Phoenix. We have a fenced yard and keep our coop clean. I will also be getting in touch with our neighbors to reach out to you as well. I know you will find our hens pleasant and the kids love seeing them. As for noise, hens are not noisy at all. I can't see anyone complaining about the noise. I know most would agree dogs barking all the time of the day can be annoying as well. The little noise that comes from our yard is nothing. Like I mentioned, we have a fence so they do not go into our neighbors' yards. I'm not complaining, but I like to bring up that we have a few cat owners in our neighborhood that have outdoor cats. Even before we had the chickens, we'd often see these cats in our setting off our cameras, pictures below. Darien is full of animal lovers. I honestly think it's ridiculous to put a ban or rules or fees on chickens when so many other pets can be an even bigger nuisance than having hens. If we start putting fees on hens, my concern is that we'll have fees on pets as well. Please do not ban Darien for having hens. I do agree houses should be fenced, and I do agree with roosters not being allowed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Anyone else?
You know, I've got a few, Mayor. I'm just gonna run down the list because I think we need to let everybody be voices known that they were talked, not just the ones we approve of. I've got a list of Jim Frieds, Liz Hayes, Penny Mercerino, Bonnie Buckholz, Cindy Keelan, who is from Villa Park, Carol Jablonski, Ron Mercerino, Eric Warzak, Athena Flores, who Alderman Clisek was just talking about, Heather Conroy, who's in our audience here this evening, Brianne Stromberg, Steve Leopoldo, Stan Nemec, and Jenny Johnson. And it's a mix of people that are for them and against them.
Thank you, Joe. Ted, anything? Mary?
Same thing. I mean, I've gotten, I think many of the emails appear in the packet, hard copy form. I have a lengthy list. I think many of us received, all received them. I did get invitations from some residents to come visit their chicken coops. I'll talk about that during that session, but just a lot of emails regarding pros and cons for having chickens in Darien.
Thank you.
I've got a handful more, but I'll email them to the clerk, get them in the record.
Alderman Belzak, anything?
Thank you.
All my emails that I received, I forwarded on to Regina or to Brian or Dan.
Thank you. I probably received everything that all of you have received because I'm copied on everything. One bit of information that I did get over the last week that is different from chickens is that the Illinois Department of Public Health has come out with its guidelines for Halloween. As most of you know, through our Direct Connect, Darien has set a policy, so to speak, where we're going to allow parents to make that decision whether or not their children trick or treat this year. We are advising people to be mindful of their children wearing proper medical masks, gloves, that anybody who wants to distribute chickens,
Sandwiches.
anybody wants to distribute candy, make sure it's wrapped, store-bought, and that they're wearing a mask when the children come to your house. And that's good news. The Illinois Department of Public Health does not promote it, but it does not discourage it either, so we're going to go ahead with that. And that's going to be on Saturday. Halloween falls on Saturday, so people ask what is the best time, and the best time is probably late morning, early afternoon. But that's my communications. That takes us to the mayor's report. And I'm very happy to say that after many months, due to COVID, we have not been able to give a Heart of Darien Award.
Hey, Mayor, Brian,
Yes.
hey, are we not streaming live on YouTube today?
We are, but we're having a problem.
Okay. Just kept hitting refresh here, trying to see your pretty faces over there. All right, thanks.
Thank you, Lesser. So due to COVID, we've been having to put off any awards. We were initially going to give this award earlier this summer, but then we went back to having Zoom meetings, so we're very happy tonight that we're going to be able to give this Heart of Darien Award. And I'd like to read the following. Several years ago, Mr. Aldo Ziccarelli sought the solution to a crisis affecting his family, specifically a serious health-related issue suffered by his wife, Nancy. It appeared that Nancy was diagnosed with polycystic kidney disease and was told her condition necessitated a kidney transplant in order for her to remedy her disease condition. In order to assist his wife, Mr. Ziccarelli did something very novel. As a retired teacher, he decided to go public with his need by advertising on his front lawn and on his car for someone who would be considerate enough to donate a kidney to his wife. The answer to his need and his prayers came from his next-door neighbor, Mrs. Patricia Evans, a retired teacher. Unselfishly considering her own needs, Mrs. Evans agreed to donate one of her kidneys to Nancy Ziccarelli. And after being tested to assure a match, surgery was successfully performed in October 2019, and today both Nancy and Patricia are recovering and doing well. Answering the need of another individual, one whose life is threatened by a disease, is a tremendous sacrifice, and an act that demonstrates the ability of an individual to place themselves and the needs of others ahead of their own needs. My father once told me that his philosophy in life was that we should always respond to the needs of others, especially those less fortunate and in great need. He went on to add that it was his belief that if we work to take care of others, then God would always take care of us. I truly believe in this philosophy, and while Patricia Evans never heard what my father said, she definitely practiced this philosophy by putting Nancy Ziccarelli's needs ahead of her own. In many respects, by taking care of Nancy's needs, I'm sure that God is looking down and keeping Patricia safe. While Patricia gave Nancy one of her own kidneys, she also gave a piece of her heart to the Ziccarellis, and that for that reason we honor her tonight by giving her a part of our heart, by honoring her as our Heart of Darien Award recipient. Patricia? And Pat, if you want to say something, want to say something at the microphone, or does that always?
Well, there's not much I can say. It's that I just get choked up because I know my wife is going to live. And the only thing that Patty could have done more was give her own life. I mean, to give a kidney, to give an organ is just unbelievable. And she was an angel that came from heaven and answered our prayers. And I will always be, for the life of me, I'll never, I don't know what to say there. You can't say too many words because there's not much you can say. She's just unbelievable. Thank you.
Thank you, Alvin.
Not going on YouTube. It's on cable live now for those who want to watch it on cable. They
Okay.
can't.
It takes us to our Arts DuPage month. I'd like to read a mayoral proclamation. Whereas amid the COVID-19 pandemic, the role of the arts has never been more important to inspire, heal, and connect within our county. And whereas the arts embody much of the accumulated wisdom, intellect, and imagination of humankind. And whereas the arts enrich us as individuals and play a unique role in the lives of our families and our communities. Whereas the arts promote a better understanding of the diversified cultures within our communities and unify us regardless of age, race, and ethnicity. And whereas the arts sector in DuPage County consists of 2,272 arts-related businesses and account for 4.2% of the total number of businesses in the region, a larger share of the economy than transportation, tourism, agriculture, and construction. And whereas the arts provide full-time employment for over 15,000 workers in DuPage County, and whereas the arts improve our economy, enrich our civic life, drive tourism and commerce, and exert a profound positive influence on the education of our children, and whereas Arts DuPage has regularly issued official proclamations to all the cities, towns, and villages in DuPage County on an annual basis, designating October as Arts Month DuPage, and now therefore I, Joseph A. Marquez, Mayor of the City of Darien, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2020 as Arts DuPage Month and call upon our community members to celebrate and promote the arts. Is anyone here from Arts DuPage?
No one's here.
Okay, we'll put this,
Mail it.
we'll make sure that gets to them. Next on our agenda, we have our report from our Darien Chamber of Commerce. April. And April is here to give us an update on the chamber and to present us with a new member to our business community. April?
Good evening, everybody. April Pavlik from the Darien Chamber of Commerce. I have James Burke, our chairman of the board, with Edward Jones. And next to me is Miss Kelly Ford, the marketing director for one of our newest members. She represents Edgewood Clinical Services. On September 18th, we all, along with Mayor Marquez, were at a outdoor ribbon cutting ceremony to welcome Edgewood. And I will turn the mic over to Kelly now, and she could explain.
Thank you. I'll be very brief. Again, my name is Kelly Ford. I'm the marketing director at Edgewood, and we are thrilled to be part of the Darien community. And I I'm actually also a Darien resident, and I'm thrilled to be a resident. We offer full psychiatry, psychological testing, including autism testing, and counseling and therapy services. And I also want to extend to the community, if you need any kind of complimentary de-escalation or training, or for the school system, the police force, anything you need, we're here to assist in any way. So thank you very much for the warm welcome. Everyone appreciates it.
And Kel, you are in the 7900 building on Cass Avenue on the second floor, just so people know where you're at.
Correct. Yes, we are there. We have a huge office that we intend to fill up soon, and we currently offer telehealth and in-person appointments. And this is actually, we also have 2 offices in Naperville, one in Lisle, Wheaton, and Plainfield. So,
If I could add, for the audience sake, in this time where we're all dealing with COVID, coronavirus, a lot of you have heard the term COVID fatigue. We have a lot of people who I believe are experiencing mental health issues because of this disease, this dreaded disease. And what I'm very happy about is that we have an agency within our community that is here to serve us and to work with people who have that need. And I know personally that mental health is a key issue. I worked in a high school. I worked with students who sought those kind of services. And there's nothing to admitting that you have an issue like that you need counseling or you need psychiatric care. That's what they're here for. So we thank you very much and we welcome you to Darien. Does anybody have any questions for Kelly? How about April? You have anything else, April?
Kelly did bring some reading materials that I'll leave upstairs in your mailboxes for your leisure. October 15th, here at the Darien Police Training Room, First Merchants Bank is sponsoring a free lunch and learn. They're providing a boxed lunch, and it'll be on identity theft and fraud. And then we're also having another event. Do you want to talk about the golf outing?
Sure, we're having a golf outing on October 24th. It's going to be at Carriage Greens, and hopefully the city of Darien could be well represented there. And it's going to be a great event. We're going to have golf and Chucks and Zazos out there to serve food, so it'll be good.
Thank you very much.
Also, I wanted to add, if anyone here is interested in attending that luncheon on the identity theft and fraud, you're more than welcome. Just get a hold of me at the chamber office. Thank you very much.
Thank you, James, and welcome, Kelly.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
That takes us to our annual financial report. Michael will introduce our auditor. Mike?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, this evening I'm planning on introducing, we'll let him out of his cage in just a second, but his name is Jim Savio. He's the partner in charge of our audit. He's from the auditing firm of Sikich & Company, and our fiscal year ends April 30th, and they've completed the audit, did their presentation last month to the Finance Committee. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jim.
Yep, thanks, Mike. Thank you for having me here tonight to present the annual financial report for the city for the fiscal year ended April 30th, 2020. I want to thank Mike, Julie, and the entire staff also for all their assistance throughout the entire audit process. It was a bit of a challenge this year, obviously, with COVID-19. So we pretty much did the entire audit remotely. So they were able to upload all of our information remotely to our portal. We're able to answer all our questions, and we're very responsive to all of our questions. So I want to thank them for that. We were able to get the audit out on time. So I'm going to point out just a few highlights of the annual financial report real quick, as well as the auditor's communication to the city council, and then I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have. On the annual financial report, I'm going to start on page 1 and go over the 2 reports that we're responsible for in the annual financial report. First one on pages 1 through 3 is the independent auditor's report. Like I said, this in the opinion that follows, what we often call the Yellow Book audit, are the only reports that we are responsible for as auditors. Management's responsible for the rest of the annual financial report. And those responsibilities are explained here on page 1. Over on page 2, up at the very top, is the most important opinion, most important paragraph, the opinion paragraph. Again, this year we issued an unmodified opinion, which is the highest level of assurance that we can provide to the city. Now, after that, like I mentioned, is what we call the Yellow Book opinion, and that's a report on internal control of our financial reporting, as well as compliance and other matters based on an audit performed in accordance with governmental auditing standards. So you're required to have this because you expended more than $500,000 in state and federal monies. That's required by the state of Illinois, the Grant Accountability and Transparency Act. So the big takeaway from this report is we communicate that we had no material weaknesses. We also had no significant deficiencies, and then we had no instances of non-compliance to any contracts, laws, or grant agreements. And then finally, I'm going to go over the management discussion and analysis, which follows that Yellow Book opinion. That's on MD&A page 1. Prepared by Julie. Great overview of the city's financial position and changes in financial position. Point out any significant trends or changes that may have occurred, including COVID-19. And it also has some 2-year comparative data that you can't find elsewhere in the report. So I tell you every year, if you only want to read one thing, read the MD&A, because it provides a great overview of the city's finances. That's all I'm going to cover on the annual financial report. The other report that we issue is the auditor's communication to the mayor and city council. And if you turn to the table of contents, there's certain required communication that we have to have with the city council every year. Pretty routine this year. We didn't implement any new accounting pronouncements this year. Like I said, we had no delays or disagreements with management, and things went very well. After that, we're required to communicate to you any audit adjusting journal entries. These are entries we found as part of the audit process. So we had 9 AJEs, and those are listed out on pages 5 through 7. And then right after that, we also have to communicate any past adjustments. These are adjustments that were deemed to be immaterial, so they weren't recorded or they were passed on. We had 2 of those, and those are on pages 8 and 9. And then we had some communication of deficiencies in internal control and other matters. That starts on page 11. And on page 11, we had no new deficiencies this year. So again, great job by Mike, Julie, and the entire staff. And then the status of the prior year comments starts on page 15. So we had 3 deficiencies last year. The first 2 are still applicable this year. And then the third one on page 16, rental income, that was considered implemented this year. So we had that was addressed in the current year. So we also issued a management letter. It's a 1-page report that basically says in writing that there were no material weaknesses. And then we also had a report on the consolidated year-end financial report in accordance with GATA as well. So there's a cipher report and then an in relation to opinion, basically saying it's fairly stated in relation to the basic financial statements that we audited. So those are the 4 reports we issued. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the city council may have.
Any questions from any of the council? Todd?
What do you mean by total net position? Decreased approximately. So that's page 5 of the MD&A.
So yeah, net position is basically your retained earnings.
Okay, so like a reserve, pretty much.
Correct.
Okay.
Anything else?
Just as information, Mr. Savio was also at the Admin Finance Committee last month at the meeting to present the draft, and the committee had an opportunity to also go through that and review it. So this is really the second set that the council has a chance to look at it.
Mary?
Yeah, and I just wanted to, as the chairperson of the Admin Finance Committee, wanted to thank Mr. Savio for his time. Also thank Treasurer Corin and staff member, our accounting manager, Julie Sands, for all the time. Just as Mr. Savio said, it was far more time consuming because of them not being able to be physically present in the facility. So things had to be sent electronically, and I think if anybody here in this room has ever scanned things, it adds a whole other step. So just very grateful for the level of professionalism and accuracy of everything.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Savio.
Great, yeah. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you very much. Before we go on, I wanted to note, we normally get a proclamation that we read every October for breast cancer awareness. As you know, the month of October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. If you look at our clock tower, you'll see the pink ribbons. Mr. Van and I are wearing pink tonight. I believe Mary has pink on as well. Breast cancer is something that touches a lot of our families. It touched my family with my wife's mother. I don't think anybody is immune to it. It's a devastating disease, and the treatment is really harsh, very unbelievable. So I would ask you to make sure that you keep those people in your prayers who have gone through this, and that you spread the awareness to people that there is help out there and that they should take advantage of early detection. Anyone have anything else to say on that, Mary?
I know there will be several different ways of honoring October as Breast Cancer Month, but just to point out, this Wednesday, the Darien Women's Club has an annual event called Bingo for Breast Cancer. It's a fundraiser they do, and they welcome people to attend. It'll be at Carriage Greens, will be where it's located, and it'll start at, the doors will open at 6 o'clock, and there's a $20 donation that gets you your cards and your bingo game, and it's for, obviously, a great cause.
Thank you, Mary. Takes us to our city clerk's report. Joanne?
No report this evening.
We move on to our city administrator's report. Brian?
Thank you, Mayor. Just one item. The City Hall and Police Department, our phones have been down since Friday. 911 emergency call is still available and works fine. So if anybody is trying to call and you're not getting the answer, you're getting a quick busy signal. It's something outside of the building, so I believe AT&T is working on that. If it's not up by tomorrow, we'll send out a special direct connect with many of the staff's emails, so at least residents then that want to communicate have that availability on to do that via email. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Department head information questions. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Gombeck or Chief Thomas? Alderman Klistak?
Thank you, Mayor. I already emailed Mr. Gombeck, but I requested a sign for the non-idling. We have it in front of Walgreens and Home Depot, but believe it or not, there's no non-idling signs in front of the warehouse or in that area, so I just requested one to be put up there.
Okay. Anything else? Alderman Kenny?
Mr. Dan, what's the policy with your staff on political signs and the right-of-ways? I received a call, so I guess there's an issue in Darien Club with signs, because they're not allowed to put signs on their property. So what they're doing is they're putting them actually into the parkway.
We cannot have political signs in any right-of-way, with the exception of county right-of-ways. Cass Avenue, Plainfield, 75th Street. We do try to sweep the town every 3 to 4 days for political signs that are in the right-of-way.
You might want to take a ride down Darien Club Drive tomorrow.
Thank you.
Just as a follow-up to that, we had something in Direct Connect. One of the challenges are areas where there's no sidewalks and maybe there's the rural cross sections. Typically, if there's a home with a sidewalk and it's placed between the sidewalk and the house, that's fine, it's private property. We don't have the sidewalk. Sometimes the signs will scoot up towards the curb line, which is technically our property. So typically, if residents keep, without sidewalks, if they keep it about 10 or 15 feet off the street or between a ditch, if they have the ditch in the front yard or in their house, they're in compliance. And sometimes you look for the row of fire hydrants and you'll kind of get a better idea where the property line is, but those are a little harder. Thank you.
Anything else for the chief? It takes us to our treasurer's report. Michael?
Thank you, Mayor. This evening, I'm requesting council's approval of warrant number 2021-11, the amount of $86,626.86 from the listed funds. Payroll for the period ended September 24th in the amount of $274,727.90 for a total to be approved of $361,354.76.
Motion to approve. Alderwoman Sullivan, seconded by Alderman Belzak. Questions or comments?
And I'm not sure, I walked in like a minute or two after work session. I'm sure we didn't get over the warrant. So I just got one quick question. administration, Suncom TV, looks like we had.
I'm sorry, could you speak into the microphone?
Suncom TV, looks like we had 4 entries, both paid, and then reimbursed. Was just curious what that was about. Connection to laptop. And then I got a question for. And then I got a question.
It's actually zeroed out. You see 2 of the positive and 2 of the negatives,
Right.
so that check was not issued. It was originally issued, then zeroed out, then issued again, then zeroed out, so there's no payment to them.
And what are trucking spoils, Dan?
Trucking spoils, what's the account referring to?
Public Works Streets. Yeah, XBE Chicago, trucking spoils.
That's our transporter for excavations. More than likely, that's the water main break material that was excavated.
Hauling the dirt and that with the heavy trucks.
And then last but not least, Orange Crush HMA private surface. So is that something done on a private road or?
No, it should be the bituminous hot patch for patching asphalt is what it is.
Okay, that's it. I'm good. Thank you.
The roll?
Sullivan,
Aye.
Belzak,
Aye.
Gustafson,
Aye.
Vaughn,
Aye.
Shower,
Aye.
Kenny,
Aye.
Clistic,
Aye.
7 ayes.
Takes us to standing committee reports. Do any of the aldermen have committee reports for the council? Alderman Belzak?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The next Municipal Services Committee meeting will be held on October 26th at 7 p.m. in council chambers.
Thank you. Mary?
The next Economic Development Committee meeting will be held on Wednesday, October 14th at 7 p.m. in council chambers. And the next Admin Finance Committee will be held at 6 p.m. on November 2nd in the conference room upstairs prior to the city council meeting.
Thank you. Joe?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. On October 19th, Monday, 6 p.m., Police Committee will meet in the police training room across the parking lot.
Thank you. Takes us to questions and comments that are agenda related. This is an opportunity then for those of you in the audience who would like to address the issue of that are on the items that are on our agenda. Again, I'm going to remind you that you're limited to 3 minutes, and at the end of that 3 minutes, I will make note that it's 3 minutes. So I don't care who starts first. We just need you to state your name, and you can make your presentation. Who would like to go first?
Hi, my name is Austin Krusek. This is concerning the chicken issue that was going on for the past week. I'm here to tell you that you shouldn't ban the chickens specifically because they're quieter than dogs. There's a whole slew of reasons that we're gonna give you, but I don't know. I'm here to convince you. The reason we have eggs is we have chickens is because the eggs. My mom has extreme dietary restrictions, and we have to have. Well, she doesn't have to have eggs, but it's a nice variety to the diet that she has to go on because she's allergic to wheat and corn. May not sound like a lot, but when you look at how many ingredients of everything, it's a lot. They're humanely raised. We don't be mean to the chickens. It's when we say, like, people are like, oh my gosh, it's animal abuse. We have a 2-acre yard. We hold 13, 14 chickens, and they're fed. We feed them, but they eat whatever they want on the property, the grass, insects, whatever. But if this ordinance does pass, then maybe a permit would be allowed for chickens to be accepted. That's all I have to say about the chickens.
Thank you, Austin. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm Jaden. I am regarding the chicken issue as well.
What's his name?
Some more points to what Austin was saying. People complain chickens are loud, and they're relatively not. Like, I understand why roosters were banned, because they're very loud in a certain portion of the day, like dogs are usually. And chickens aren't really loud at all. They're actually very quiet, and the only person that would be able to hear them is probably you through your window. We don't, usually people buy chickens, they also raise them from eggs. Because there's two things that you can do with chicken eggs. You can raise them, which you can't really do anymore, or you usually eat them. And we don't sell them either, because that's not really right, I would say. We use our chickens for ourselves, and since COVID is kind of stressful and depressing, it's nice having a few companions along at your side. And it also helped with the food shortage that's going around, because there's at stores there are several, you can see several shelves completely picked clean. And that's why we started a garden and got chickens. They really help with the shortage of food. That's all I have to say.
What's your name?
Jaden Villa.
Thank you very much.
What was his name?
The lady up here needs you to...
I didn't hear what your name was again.
Louder.
Oh, Jaden Villa.
Okay, thank you very much. Who's next?
My name is Marie Friday. Darien is at a crossroads in making a decision that could impact property values, future health, and pest problems. Last week, there was not a second to the chicken ordinance, and I was assuming that means that the committee is suggesting that Darien ban chickens. If they did, Darien would not be the only suburban community that banned them. We would join other DuPage towns like Willowbrook, Woodridge, Villa Park, Clarendon Hills, Elmhurst, Glen Ellen, Aurora, Carroll Stream, Oak Brook, to name a few. Our neighbor Burr Ridge only allows them on properties larger than an acre and limits the number to 4. Our other neighbor, Downers Grove, also allows only 4, and the coop must be 50 feet from buildings, and you must also have 100% approval from all neighbors. There are good reasons for this. Raising of barnyard animals is best suited to rural areas. Darien is a suburban residential area where homes are close to each other. We don't allow garbage cans to sit out in front of our homes. We have other rules to keep our neighborhoods looking nice and staying clean. We have rules about the number of dogs and cats allowed, and we have the right to be concerned about raising of chickens. There's no dispute that waste from chickens causes pest problems, including mice, rats, flies, and drawing predators. There's a growing population of people who want to raise chicken as pets. The dilemma is Darien an appropriate location for that? I've already given the committee the reference materials on the CDC, but let me end by quoting directly from the CDC newsroom. The trend of raising backyard poultry is growing because of consumer interest in knowing where one's food comes from. Many people with backyard poultry simply buy 1 or 2 birds to keep in their backyard for fresh eggs. Chicken, ducks, geese, turkey, and other live poultry can carry salmonella germs in their guts. Live poultry can have salmonella germs in their droppings and on their feathers, feet, and beaks. Even when they appear healthy and clean, these germs can spread to the environment where poultry live and roam, including coops, cages, hay, soil, feed, and water dishes. People can get sick from contact with anything in the bird's environment, even if they don't touch the birds directly. Backyard poultry flocks are an increasing and important cause of salmonella infections in people in the U.S. Children under age 5, adults over 65, and people with weakened immune systems should not touch or handle live poultry. They should also avoid the areas outside where poultry roam and live. Please take that all into consideration.
Thank you, Marie. Who would like to go next? Heather? You might want to raise that microphone up.
Hi, I'm Heather Conroy. So the original ordinance I feel was fair, but with some exceptions. I really think 6 to 8 hens is a fair number. It's a number that ties to something and not arbitrary. 8 hens is the number of any standard coop size that a coop is rated for. I don't think there should be any annual fee. There's no other annual fee for pets, and like everyone is saying, these are pets. If you don't have chickens anymore, and maybe you could let the village know, or something could be done around that. I don't really understand the whole part of the registration and letting the village know, because I don't see anything with that done for dogs. I heard that the county, you can register, but as far as the village, where are your dogs? And how do you know that everybody has 3 or less if they're not registering? So I would think you would do something like that for dogs too, with complaints and safety concerns with dogs. The cage size, I don't think that it should be limited as long as you are 10 feet from the lot lines. There shouldn't be a limit from the house, as you do need sometimes some electrical. So the well-being of the chickens is for the cage. This is where they spend their life. We're not going and walking them around the block or anything. I really did like the trees and the privacy screening, as that would not exclude some Darien residents that have HOAs that won't allow fences. I sent you all a picture of my coop. Joe Kenny came and visited today. Mine is a 12 by 12 coop and run. And everybody's coop is different, and you can see that. That's the hobby part of it. I wanted to hit on the safety concerns with them. Dogs carry up to 23 million fecal coliform bacterias. They are common carriers of corona, hookworm, tapeworm, E. coli, salmonella, parvo, whipworm, etc. Dogs are walked around. Chickens stay in a controlled environment. These are hand-raised animals, meaning that they were hatched, they were kept inside, and they were hand-raised. Once they are outside, they are in an enclosed, outdoor, controlled environment, unlike dogs. So I urge you to look over the ordinance proposed and do what you think is right. And just so you know, because I have seen some stuff on it, they can lay, actually, according to Wikipedia, they can lay for up to 7 years. I was wrong. And they live 5 to 10 years, depending on the breed. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Who's next?
Could you make another statement, Joe?
I would like to hear from somebody else first, though, if there's anybody else. Just state your name, please.
How you doing? My name's Osuevia. I'm new to this. I, like many others, decided to acquire chickens because of what we saw during this pandemic. It became painfully clear to me how frail our food system can really be. I mean, we can all recall walking into a grocery store and seeing so many of the shelves just picked clean. That clearly opened my eyes that I needed to do something, if it was just something small, providing my family with a few extra meals directly from my backyard. It helped me and with help of my son, we started off by doubling the size of our vegetable garden. I wanted a way to provide my family with a little sustainable source of protein. Eggs were that obvious choice. The whole process really brought my family together. We designed and built our coop together. We educated ourselves on how to raise these pets. We picked our chickens, gave them names. It even helped me get to know my neighbors better. It sparked up interesting conversations and letting their curious children get to know about our chickens. This little flock of ours has been a blessing for my kids, especially with everything that's been going on this year. They're so eager every morning to be the first out the door to let the chickens out and look for eggs. My kids are more willing to spend their time out there with these little companions. We all know how problematic it can be for our young ones to be outside, to get outside. I believe the major misunderstanding with this comes from chickens is just a lack of being personally informed. I'm proud of my son. He built us a composting bin, which we throw the chicken droppings, grass clippings, and other vegetation into. All this creates a wonderful little fertilizer, which in turn goes into our garden, creates our little backyard ecosystem. The vegetables go on our plate. The hens eagerly help with table scraps. They continue to make eggs and more fertilizer, and goes the circle. My main concern with this proposal ordinance is first, that these chickens become unfairly outlawed within the town, and second, is that they end up so overly regulated to the point of becoming virtually too expensive to meet all the requirements to have them. I would hate to lose this freedom, and I hope we can come to some middle ground compromise. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? If there's
Thank you. Hello. Once again, I'm Jim Friday. I'm a 37-year member of the community of Darien. I've been very involved in our city, DYC, Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts, traveling soccer, basketball coach, member of Hinsdale South Athletic Board, Darien Swim and Recreation Club member and board member, longtime member of 2 local churches, and has supported many other community activities and associations. You've heard my concerns regarding chickens in Darien at past meetings and correspondence. These have included noise, flies, and disease, as well as my personal situation, aesthetics. Tonight, my remarks highlight a possible concern I've not heard discussed. According to the Illinois Department of Public Health's website and a number of pro-chicken websites, there is a potential issue with backyard chickens attracting rodents. Quickly, I would like to point out that most of the sites I'm quoting are pro-chicken, and yet they highlight and state that rats can be an issue with backyard chicken raising. Illinois Department of Public Health. Attraction of predators is a public health hazard potentially associated with chicken farming. Attraction of rodents. The attraction of rodents is a public health hazard potentially associated with urban chicken farming. Failure to maintain a clean environment for the chickens could attract mice and rats to your property. Nuisance issues. Poultry may escape into neighbors' yards. Flies may be attracted to the area unless adequate fly control is practiced. Management and handling of poultry in small backyard flocks. Keep baby chicks and adult poultry away from persons with weaker immune systems, including the elderly and pregnant women. The Center of Disease Control and Prevention recommends that persons not keep chickens if household has children less than 5 years of age. Those comments are from the Illinois Department of Public Health. From the backyard chicken chatter, it is true that backyard chickens attract rats. Yes, backyard chickens do indeed attract rats, and that's a fact. It is a well-known fact that rats are opportunistic eaters. Rats get attracted to the need for food and water. From laysomeeggs.com, the main reason rats and mice are attracted to chicken coops has nothing to do with the chickens themselves. Rodents are attracted to feed and other treats you give your chickens. Utah State University Extension Service. From December Associated Press article, link was shown between explosion in the rat population in Eugene, Oregon, and the growth in backyard chicken raising. Pest control companies in the area also reported a brisk spike in business. My Pet Chicken. Chicken feed and droppings will attract rats. Yes. So important that you store your feed in metal bins and carefully prepare your chicken run using heavy gauge wire. Clucking.net. Every rat or mouse has the potential to transmit diseases. Not every chicken or human will catch them. It is not the chickens or the coop on its own that attract the vermin. It is the feed, water, and shelter that rats and mice find irresistible. Chicken feed will attract rats. It's important to emphasize the word can be and infected. It is not the chickens or the coops its own that attract vermin. It is the feed, water, shelter, and rats and mice find irresistible. Chicken feed will attract rats. Those comments are all from pro-chicken websites. Is our city ready to budget the manpower needed to monitor backyard chickens and the potential issues they bring to our community? Finally, if chickens are pets, then they need to be vaccinated and licensed like my dog and cat. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? State your name, please.
Good evening. My name is Jeannie Krusek, and I've been a Darien resident for 25 years. My mom currently owns chickens and has owned chickens for the last 13 years. I have not once seen a rat. I haven't caught a rat. I haven't been anywhere near rats. And there's rats in Chicago, and I don't see any chicken coops there. What we do see are plenty of squirrels. They are attracted to the yard with the feed. Hawks also are attracted to chickens, and they will attack them. When we do keep our feed in metal cans and they are protected and away from rodents, our chickens are all kept in an enclosed fenced yard. And actually, these pets help my 87-year-old mother with her dementia. They're used as therapy chickens. So they give her the companionship when I can't be there, my sons can't be there. They provide eggs. And salmonella has not been an issue once since we've had these chickens. In fact, my kids have gotten pink eye and ringworm from dogs in the neighborhood, from friends' dogs or neighborhood dogs. They've not once gotten sick from any of my mom's chickens. She feeds them all grain-free food. She cares for them. We help care for them. They're all kept in their own coops. Everything is orderly and together. She's got a large enough yard for all these chickens, and she would be devastated if she had to get rid of them. The neighbors don't hear them. They're not loud. They're not disruptive. And the 3-dog rule in Darien is a fallacy, because I know people in Darien, they have more than 3 dogs. For sure, for a fact. And it's very disheartening to see that you would go after all the chicken owners in Darien over one negative exposure. There are other ways to go about this, and nicer, kinder ways to the environment, because chickens add to the farm, they add to the food, they add fertilizer to the garden. It's not a negative thing. You can't do that with dogs and cat feces. So I would plead with you to please consider allowing chickens in Darien, especially if you have a larger lot. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe that young man has another comment he would like to make. No?
He's okay.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Please come forward. State your name.
Elizabeth Monahan. In regards to the rat comments about being able to find people talking about it all the time on chicken websites, that's true. People ask questions every day because they want to make sure they're giving their chickens the best life possible. One of the main questions is, how do we prevent rats and rodents? Easy. Metal garbage cans. They can't eat through them. And your food doesn't get wet. Super easy. The answer is given every time someone asks, every day someone asks that question. Every time the slew of answers on those websites is, put it in a metal trash can. Done. Simple as that. They can't get in there. Another main question you get on those websites is, how do I keep my chickens safe from predators? Everything wants to eat chickens. Everything. They're the lowest on the order. Fox, raccoons, possums, skunks, dogs, cats, hawks, they all want to eat chicken. So the next main question is, how do you keep them safe? Hardware cloth, 1/4 inch, hardware cloth prevents all animals from getting in, including rats. So not only do you have your food in metal bins, you have your chickens safe and prevented from getting attacked by other animals, and preventing rats from getting into your run, because I don't want rats. I don't want pests. I don't have flies. I don't have any of these problems. So that's just.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, we're going to end that section of our agenda. We're going to go to old business. There being none, we go to our consent agenda. There being none, no items, we're going to go to new business. Item A under new business, consideration of a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the purchase of the de-icing and anti-icing product ThermoPoint R at the unit price of $1.09 per gallon from Industrial Systems LTD in an amount not to exceed $32,000, which is 29,358 gallons times $1.09 a gallon. Motion to approve. Alderman Shower, seconded by Alderman Kenny. Any discussion? Alderman Gustafson.
Dan, how much of the chemical did we use last year? I mean, is this going to cover us here now then for the whole year, or?
It does cover us. The answer is yes, and it depends on the amount of the frequencies on the storms and the frequencies of the various cold drops, the polar colds that we get. I couldn't tell you how many gallons we used last year right off the bat without them looking at the previous year's summary. But I can tell you it is a product that works very well from a time-saving standpoint to allowing crews to get out in place. Saves us a couple hours, which the bottom line prevents motorist accidents. And after a storm, when the temperatures drop suddenly after a snow event, this agent also works and speeds up the melting process.
And the evidence of you guys putting this down are those lines that residents see in the street, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, and then that chemical just helps the salt to work better? Is that the deal, how this works?
Yes.
And the chemical is also a biodegradable chemical, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Any questions? Alderman Kenny, you look like you had a question.
Well, I got questions, but not about that.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. The roll.
Shower.
Aye.
Kenny.
Aye.
Vaughn.
Aye.
Clistic.
Aye.
Belzak.
Aye.
Gustafson.
Aye.
Sullivan.
Aye.
7 ayes.
The motion passes. Item passes, excuse me. Item B, consideration of a motion to approve a resolution approving a business assistance rebate under the CARES Act for certain local businesses that experienced additional expenses to create outdoor services during the COVID pandemic. Motion to approve. Alderman Belzak, second by Alderman Shower. Discussion? Mr. Vanna.
Yeah, the memo that went out, we had made one correction to that memo. I had left out Dry Dock was one of the businesses, so to add that, the resolution amount should read an amount estimated at $108,500.
For the audience who might be unaware, back in June, the city of Darien rebated $296,000 to our 49 restaurants and bars if they would reopen. This gave them funds to open, bring back staff, pay invoices. The food and beverage, the restaurants and bars in the city of Darien pay a 1 1/4% additional tax that they pay directly to the city of Darien. That money comes directly to us. We looked at a 6-month period last year, May 1st to October 31st, and we knew what each business gave us during that 6-month period. And back in June, when the restaurants and bars reopened for outdoor dining, we gave that amount back to each of those bars. This money is much less. We had certain of our restaurants and bars that went through the trouble of putting up tents, buying tables, building outdoor eating areas just so they could maintain an outdoor dining area. Those restaurants that have been involved in that had an additional cost due to that. They're concerned, and I've talked to them on the phone, I've talked to their owners on the phone, they're concerned what the future is going to bring, especially in the fall when the weather turns colder. So they were looking for assistance to possibly enclose their tents, purchase heaters, so that residents can continue to eat in their outdoor dining areas, because we're still limited to the number of people that can go indoors and eat. So we selected these restaurants because these are restaurants that made that extra effort to purchase and set up or lease outdoor tents and outdoor eating areas. And that's the explanation for that. I'm going to ask Mr. Vanna to give you a little explanation about our CARES Act funding. Brian?
As the council recalls, a large amount of CARES Act money from the federal government worked its way down to DuPage County. Through DuPage County and the city, there's an intergovernmental agreement, and the county has with all the communities, whereby we are able to submit for a certain amount of dollars based on population. The county reviews our submittal and either approves that, maybe revises it based on the basically the federal guidelines in our intergovernmental agreement. So we've submitted to date approximately a little over $900,000. We've submitted that in 2 requests to the county. We had not expected yet to hear back from the county because it would take, we were told, about 30 days for them to review the requests and go before the county board with the checks like our city council does, and then get that money to the city. So we're confident in our reimbursement amounts that we've requested. Some of it has to do with personnel. A lot of it is commodities, the things we're buying in terms of safety for employees and residents, like the hand sanitizer, these plexiglass dividers, and there is another category of business assistance. So the business assistance that the mayor mentioned that we rebated back to the restaurants and businesses in town, that is also eligible, and we've submitted for reimbursement. Our total reimbursement amount is estimated about $1,000,001. I have that.
1,121,000.
Yeah, $1,121,000, and I looking out because we can get reimbursements for expenses we have through the end of this calendar year, so the end of December. So all in total, our request to the county, I anticipate, will exceed that amount of our maximum. If for some reason it doesn't exceed and the county cuts back on some of our requests, the motion tonight or the resolution, we would also submit that to the county for reimbursement.
Any questions by the Alderman? Alderman Belzak.
And just to be clear, this is less than 10% of the funds that we're entitled to under the CARES Act that's going forward on this. The money you're asking for us to approve today is less than 10% of the funds
Correct.
that we'll be getting under the CARES Act.
Correct. Alderman Listek?
Thank you, Mayor. So this is for any business that normally has indoor dining to allow them to move outside for any tents or any equipment that they would need.
Correct.
To stay open. Okay, because I did speak with Shiba Sushi actually last week, and they don't believe they don't have enough room, but they would support other restaurants.
Some of them are, some of the current restaurants, like for instance, Chuck's, Southern Comforts, they're looking to enclose that tent. They're looking to buy those portable heaters or rent those portable heaters, as are others. The other day I was in downtown Downers Grove, and every restaurant, outdoor restaurant, had those heaters, those tall heaters. And we just want to be able to guarantee that they're allowed, that they can stay open as late as they can throughout the year. Hopefully we have an easy fall this year, and we can go into December without much really cold weather. If we can keep our businesses open where they're at least getting that good business for outdoor dining, it's going to help them quite a bit. No further questions. Can we have the roll?
Belzak.
Aye.
Shower.
Aye.
Vaughn.
Aye.
Clistic.
Aye.
Gustafson.
Aye.
Kenny.
Aye.
Sullivan.
Aye.
7 ayes.
The resolution passes. Item C, consideration of a motion to approve an ordinance amending Title 7 of the Darien City Code dealing with health and sanitation regarding beekeeping. This is an ordinance which would govern the raising of, not raising of bees, but the existence of bees in your backyard. Motion to approve. Alderman Belzak. Seconded by Alderman Shower, and discussion. Alderman Belzak.
Yeah, this item was on our municipal services agenda last week, and it did pass 2-1.
Yes, the municipal services 2-1. Alderman Klisdak.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wondering what the history was. Was a concern from a resident with regards to bees, or how was this brought forward?
When we considered the issue of chickens, we had several individuals who expressed concern with regard to the people who had bees in their backyard, raising bees, whatever you want to say it. So we figured rather than wait till there was an issue with this, that we would define it through use of an ordinance.
In addition, I recall Alderman Vaughn had received a communication.
Okay.
Right.
Dan, is that?
That's correct, yes.
Alderman Vaughn, you recall, right? That came up that first night the council talked about proceeding with some chicken discussions, and that's when Alderman Vaughn also raised the bees.
And this just states.
Yeah, several residents on my block, or on my neighboring block, we have someone that's raising bees, and it became a conflict. And it, they weighed in on the bees, and they said it was becoming a pain, becoming an issue for them to sit in their backyards. They can't really enjoy themselves. So I thought I would bring it up to council to see if we could pass an ordinance to prevent beekeeping or bee raising in the community because it was becoming a nuisance. So that's how it came about.
Any further comments? Alderman Sullivan.
So, obviously, a lot of the focus has been put on the chickens, so we don't want to neglect the bees, but I guess my question is, do we feel that the ordinance in place, Alderman Vaughn, would help the situation in your neighborhood and maybe in other neighborhoods that we haven't heard from, if people are allowed to have honeybees, because, honeybees are different than yellow jackets, honeybees in their yard under this ordinance where there's some guidelines and restrictions? I guess that's a question for you, Lester, or maybe for Dan.
Hold on. Yeah, I think it would be helpful because right now I think we have no authority to actually approach residents if they are raising bees or if the bees are becoming a nuisance. So I think it's helpful in our approach with our municipal service team and those who are enforcing the ordinances to be able to enforce some guidelines and some standards for those who are raising bees.
Dan, you want to add something? I'm sorry, Lester.
Just wanted to echo off of Lester's comments. Yes, there's going to be a process in place, and that process limits the number of beehives, number one. Number two, a registration process, so we know there's certain rules and guidelines, including a handout sheet that basically tells residents what they need to do. So, we think we have a pretty good protocol in place for that.
Thank you. Alderman Klista?
Thank you. Does that grandfather current bee owners that are currently in there, or do they have to remove them if they don't meet the guidelines?
They have to remove them to meet the guidelines.
Okay.
Any other comments? We have the roll.
Belzak.
Aye.
Shower.
Aye.
Sullivan.
Aye.
Vaughn.
Aye.
Clistic.
Aye.
Gustafson.
Aye.
Kenny.
Wow, I thought there was going to be more discussion on that. I'm a no. Because if somebody gets stung by a bee and somebody can die, I don't want to see that happen. I thought there was going to be more of a discussion. Oh well.
It's 6-1.
The ordinance amending Title 7 is passed. Takes us to item D. Consideration of a motion to approve an ordinance amending Title 7 of the Darien City Code, Health and Sanitation involving domestic fowls. Motion to approve. Alderman Belzak. We have a second by Alderman Klisdak. For the sake of the audience, last week the Municipal Services considered a proposal presented by the Mr. Gombeck. The proposal was based on Dan, and you correct me if I state anything incorrectly, but you accumulated data from other municipalities in terms of their regulations and their ordinances, and you formulated a proposal which you presented to the Municipal Services Committee last week.
That is correct.
That is plus additional information dealing with the health of chickens, et cetera, et cetera.
Correct.
All right. The Municipal Services Committee had 9 people in the audience. I know I was here. And all 9 people came up, I believe, and made comments, pros and cons, regarding whether or not chickens should be allowed to be raised in the city of Darien. Alderman Belzak very nicely took his committee through each of the items on this proposed ordinance, items A through Q. Many of the items were just accepted, such as no slaughtering of animals, no selling of eggs, et cetera, et cetera. There were items, though, that the committee felt needed to be changed. They went through each one of those. They actually debated the changes that were that they wanted to make to this, and you'll see that as you go through the ordinance itself. After about an hour of those changes, Alderman Belzak, as chairperson, made a motion to approve or to recommend to the City Council the proposed ordinance. There was no second to that motion, and therefore the item died. So the ordinance that you see before you tonight is an ordinance that comes to us without any kind of endorsement. And with that, I'm going to open up our discussion on that ordinance. Alderman Belzak.
So as the mayor said, we had a lengthy meeting regarding chickens at the last municipal services meeting. The audience was divided pretty much half in favor, half against, and which has always led me to believe that's where the answer to this problem lies. We have a group of people that don't want chickens. We have a group of people that want chickens and they don't want regulation, and I think we need to meet somewhere in the middle. After going through everything last week, I thought we did a pretty good job on trying to find some middle ground, trying to compromise on this issue, trying to give people who don't want chickens some benefits, and trying to let the people who do have their chickens keep their chickens. No one's going to be happy with the ordinance because no one's getting everything they want. But at the same time, we were trying to figure out a way where everyone could get something and walk away with something in hand saying we've accomplished something. My goal, or my thoughts on the matter, the main issue is fencing. That's my line in the sand on this. It always has been. I think if you have a privacy fence up, it doesn't really matter whether your neighbor likes chickens or not, because the chickens aren't going to bother your neighbor. I think having a permit with, and it is a modest fee that we're asking for, is important. The fee is nominal, and it would go towards the cost of the city to investigate any problems with chicken coops and to make sure they are, in good shape. They're not going to fall down, etc. The number of chickens, we vacillated between 4 and 8. I think our last number we came up was 4. Downers Grove has 4. That's kind of what I was thinking. I looked at all the other municipalities. They're all in that ballpark. If there was a group of people that wanted 6 here, I could support that. I know some people who have spoken have said they have 5. I can live with 5. I just think we need to find some middle ground, something to balance that allows the people that have their chickens to keep their chickens and yet protect the neighbors who don't want chickens.
Anyone else? Alderman Klista?
This question is from Mr. Thomas Belzak. From my understanding, and this is sort of drives me a little nuts, we've only had really one complaint with regards to chickens. I find out once this whole ordinance started going, I had a couple neighbors come to me. Oh, I had chickens. I had this, and I spoke to some of those neighbors. And I've been on council for 5-6 years. I've never had one chicken complaint, and I think it's literally 2 neighbors that almost have a concern with chickens and without chickens that brought this forward. And I'm just sort of thinking, are we throwing the whole kitchen sink at this one argument. I mean, we've had legal truck parking forever, and it still happens, and we never changed the ordinance. So I'm curious if we're just doing too much, or just all of a sudden putting all this regulation with the permits, with the setbacks, where we should just say, you have a fence and 6 chickens, and then if we need to add more, we add more. But it seems like we're just going for the neck of the chicken on this one here.
Well, and I would agree with that. I would say that it was brought to our attention, yes, by one piece of property, much like it was brought to Lester's attention with one beehive.
Okay.
Anytime there's a problem, we look to see whether it's something we can solve or we should stay out of. In this particular situation, the researchers showed that I went and reviewed Downers Grove when they had this argument 8 years ago, and they had a list of, I think, every municipality in DuPage, and St. Charles and Darien were the only 2 that were silent on chickens, and that seemed crazy to me. It seemed like we have to have some type of regulation. Now, where we meet on that regulation, that's up to us.
Okay.
But I think it's silly that we would have 0 regulation on it whatsoever.
No, I would agree. I think we'd have to have something there. It just seemed odd. It was just only all these people that have chickens in my ward come forward. I never even realized. So I was a little blown away of how many people have chickens. And 6 years on council, I never had one concern. So that was really surprising to me. And as what you were saying, I think a compromise would be something maybe we'd all look for. I'd agree with the fence. One thing I'd have a disagreement is with the setbacks. Visiting some neighbors, they have the chickens close to their house with regards to not having all the sun during the daytime and also heat. So I don't know if we want to keep that 10-foot setback. I would like to change that to 0 if possible, or get the council's approval or their feedback and potentially compromise and say 6 chickens versus 4.
No, I mean, in my view, that makes a lot of sense. I don't see why there needs to be any setback when we're talking about the person's own house. If they want to have a coop next to their house, I don't see how that would bother a neighbor. I know currently as it is now, it's 20 feet in every direction, correct, Dan?
Yes, we went from 10 to 20.
Right.
From all the lot lines.
And
line.
Correct, in that,
Right.
But what about the house?
The house, there wasn't no regulation.
No regulation there.
I thought there was a picture in there that showed
It showed 10 foot away
from the house.
from the house as a guideline.
Oh,
But as far as the setbacks were in respect to lot lines themselves.
so that would resolve Alderman Klistick's issue.
I think that, Tom, is that right? You were referring to how far away from the house
The
or
house,
from the
correct.
lot lines?
Either way, so from the house or from the plot line. So I'd leave that just open wherever the owner feels is best to keep the chicken, and just say that, no requirement for the 10-foot.
All right, well, that's something that the city council may have to consider, because right now from the lot lines, it's proposed in the ordinance at 20 feet.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
From the lot line. I want to add something here. We heard tonight from almost everybody who was a chicken person who wanted to raise chickens. We've received, Alderman Klistick says, how did this come about? Well, it started with one situation, but I've probably received over the last month over 150 emails from people saying, I'm for chicken raising, I'm against chicken raising. So now this has become a bigger issue than just 2 people in the city of Darien. Therefore, it merits our attention. Somebody wrote me a very nasty email and said, why are you spending time doing this? And my response to that is, when a resident brings up an issue, it's our responsibility to deal with it. And that's why we're dealing with it. And we're dealing with it. Alderman Belzak made the correct comment. There's got to be a middle ground. We have always looked at every issue. In my 23 years, we've always tried to find a middle ground. Doesn't always make everybody happy, whether it was snowmobiles in the driveway or whatever, we always found a middle ground. Rather than saying no snowmobiles at all, we made an ordinance. Did it make everybody happy? No, but we found a middle ground. There needs to be a middle ground here, because there are a significant number of people who don't want chickens at all in the city of Darien, because they're concerned about their property values. Now, none of them are here tonight, or at least no one's expressed that tonight. But I want to make sure people who are watching this understand that while we have a group tonight that supports raising chickens, we have a large group of people out there who also don't want chickens at all. So whatever we agree on, we have to agree on something that at least alleviates some of their concern. Mary?
Yes. Thank you, Mayor. In Ward 5, I have to say the overwhelming number of emails I received were people opposed to chickens. And honestly, prior to this weekend, I was leaning that way until I took the last few days and spent time educating myself and talking to residents who currently have chickens. I was invited to visit some chicken coops, talk to people who are having chickens, their families, visit their yards, talk to their neighbors who are not chicken owners. And I have to say, it was extremely enlightening. The reality is, chickens have been in Darien for a very long time. We're not talking about letting chickens come. They're already here. They have been here. They've been coexisting in our community. And really, up until recently, when there was a neighbor dispute between one particular situation, it didn't bring it to light. But now it has brought it to light. And it's our job as elected officials to do our due diligence, like Alderman Belzak said, and represent all people in Darien and all of their interests. And really, there's no winners and losers here. It's just about protecting our community and doing what's best and finding common ground. And I have to say, I've been enlightened by the chicken experience. I personally would not want to have chickens, but I found it very informative. People have done it for years for various reasons, for health reasons, for stress relief. A lot of young families have gravitated towards it, most recently because of the pandemic. It has turned out to be a great resource for scout troops. I find it actually truly fascinating now. And I do believe that many communities in our town won't even support having chickens because of their homeowners associations, covenants with outlots and fences, whatever we end up with or don't end up with. Many communities in my ward have very strict homeowners guidelines that won't even let them have a shed or a fence. So, there's a lot of things that will be prohibited because of that. But, I think if anything we've learned from this issue and probably other issues down the road is it's so important that we be good neighbors and good stewards and kind and understand that we all might not see the same thing the same way. But, we got to find some common ground. And I think that's what we're here to do tonight.
Alderman Kenny?
What an interesting night. We start the night by giving out the Darien Heart Award because somebody gave a kidney to their neighbor. And we're going to end it. We're going to end the night fighting about chicken and what neighbors want chickens and what neighbors don't. I just thought that was pretty ironic. I'm looking at a text message right now. Someone just sends me a text message saying, not every issue has a middle ground, and he's death penalty. So even in that situation, you get somebody who's not going to agree with that. Last week, I wasn't no. I had a handful of residents from Norman Courts telling me no. Norman Courts are very good to me, and I'm very good to them, and I was taking that back, and then when I realized that Norman Courts wouldn't even get chickens because they're in a townhome, they're not single family home, and the ordinance wouldn't allow it. Then it made me start looking like Alderman Sullivan did, and I started reading, and I actually got a book on my Kindle about chickens, and went ahead and talked to neighbors. I've been to I'm going to call it 3.5 coops. I was at the Fry's house. I was able to see Melissa's and Jim's coop there. But then I was able to go see, as Heather Conroy alluded to today, I saw that one. Steve Leopoldo invited me to his coop. I went to look at that, and he invited me to his neighbor down the block. And the most interesting part about it is, we sit back and we get some emails talking about how Aldi's got eggs for, you can get eggs for 99 cents and, if they're on sale and what have you. But when you started asking the questions deep down, why? If you can't be saving that much money off of this. And they look at a guy's eyes and tell him how stressful his job is. He's a chemical engineer, and this is the thing that relieves his stress. And we talked about mental health here earlier tonight. It's it's something I took a big education this week. I watched several news episodes on YouTube to this issue. Is Alderman Sullivan says this is not a new issue, and somebody alluded to this is a fad. This is not a fad. This is a trend, and I think that our COVID-19 with the runs on grocery stores has made us take a look at things. I'm thinking if these chickens were laying rolls of toilet paper, we wouldn't have that much of a problem instead of eggs. So it's funny how if you look deep into the situation and you talk to Steve Leopoldo and why where he's from, and he was originally from Central Illinois, and he came up here because his child has health issues and needs to be near better medical, but with that comes he needs to get better food. So every person's situation is different, and we can't paint every situation with the broad brush. And I'm sure the Fry's has got some health concerns there, and I'm sorry for that as well. But the talk about the smells and the talk about the noise at the 4 different coops that I was at, I didn't hear much of anything. I know that at Steve's house on Sunday morning, the chickens started walking a little bit, and he went by and he gave him some feed, and that's all they were looking for. Just like a dog, the dog starts barking, you give the dog a treat. So I've changed my stance on that. I've probably been in more houses in Darien and Downers Grove than any of you have as a realtor, and and I've been a realtor now for 19 years, and I never realized as a realtor how many houses in the community have chickens, or if there's an issue with it. Dan, I'm going to ask you a question. As far as our businesses, the restaurants and whatnot along Plainfield Road and 75th, over years, have we had any kind of rat problem?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay, because I would venture to think that there'd be rats at in the backs of grocery stores or backs of restaurants as well. I don't and if what Mrs. Monahan has alluded to, as long as you take the proper precautions, kind of like COVID, you take the proper precaution, wear your mask, wash your hands. It's probably not the safeguard for everything, but it's a start in the right direction. And Alderman Belzak, I think you're absolutely right. We gotta have some middle ground here. That's all I got. And I hope I didn't go over 3 minutes.
Alderman, okay, Dan?
Yes, just, I'll get back up a second to Alderman Klistik's question. We do have on the guidelines in reference to a 20-foot setback from the house. That was a recommended standard, okay? It's not in the ordinance, so again, we just recommended that as 20 feet. It could be 5 feet. We're gonna modify that. That should be at least a minimal of 5. 20 was just an arbitrary number at the time. It just made sense. But we're going to change that to 5 unless any of the council members had a concern with that. That portion is not in the ordinance as it doesn't really refer to zoning.
Yeah, so just to clarify, Dan, 2 things. So you're saying the setback from the home would need to be 5 feet?
So if you have your home is here, it has to be 5 foot away, a minimal of at least 5 foot away. We had 20 we put 20.
But you couldn't have the coop right up against your home? And
you could. I mean, it doesn't really make sense.
Well, I'm just saying,
because
then it's actually less noticeable for the surrounding area.
Sure. There could be a 0 setback. I mean, you would think from a maintenance standpoint, you wouldn't want to do that for mowing. But yeah, there's really nothing.
Well, maybe if it's like right on the patio, it's already on concrete.
We'll stay silent on that. We'll just eliminate that. Then there's no confusion. Everything else.
Can you reiterate the setbacks for sheds? Since, I know a coop is not a shed, but I know,
Sure.
Sheds are on properties and they have certain restrictions.
Sheds are 10 foot back from the lot line. Typically 10 foot. There's 5 foot setbacks. I'd have to double check on the shed for accessory structures. For example, a driveway needs to be 5 foot off the property line or off the side property line. Typically, everything off of the rear yard line is 10 foot.
That's what I thought, because I know that from planning and zoning, that was
Yes.
sheds and pools and things like that.
Alderman Gustafson?
Yeah, and Dan, I think one thing we need to clarify is this privacy fence. Is this a fence around the entire backyard or around the coop itself?
No, around the entire backyard.
Entire backyard. I think
That's what-
people need to be
So I
very
gotta-
aware of that.
So I got a question for you on that one. So some houses, kind of like our garbage issue, where they're built up on hills and stuff. Some properties are going to be able to have where it's going to be 6 foot at one point, and they're going to be much higher at another point because of the way the backyards lean. Like Leopoldo's backyard, for example, his is a challenge for fencing issues. So how would we regulate that on people with different elevations on their property?
Well, I guess what you're saying then is based on the elevation, if a fence was constructed, that the actual chicken coop would still be observed from a adjacent property? Is that what, I believe that's what you're saying?
I would have to obviously get into the adjacent property and look, but I just thought it would, how challenging it would be to get the fences. Well, you've been in his yard.
So if you have a big hill in the middle, right? You have a 6-foot fence and you have a 4-foot hill, you can put a 6-foot chicken coop, then you're up at 10 foot. So that's the concern is depending where you put it, you can put it in the middle of the yard and it'll create it visible to everyone else. So maybe the height of the fence has to be covered, say minimum 6 foot or whatever it takes to cover the chicken coop.
I guess that's a matter of semantics, because now you're looking at a grade variation. Can it still be done? In other words, can the fence be terraced? The answer is yes. Grade, 6 foot from grade is basically 6 foot from the ground, regardless of the terrain, if you want to say. If you're looking at, again, to compensate for that grade, so you're saying that this fence may only be 4 foot high at the back of that property versus 6 foot. Again, if that's something that the council wants to give staff some administrative responsibility to determine that, there's not an easy answer to that.
Would that be a case on a case-by-case basis where a person may need to get a variance on that in order to comply to make sure that the chicken coop isn't, so the fence is, we'll say 4 feet, okay, but the neighbors can't see it. You're not going to go ahead and throw another 2 foot of fence on there just because the code says so.
Sure, it's whether or not how much of the property would be required to have that 4 foot fence. In most cases, it would only be the rear of the property. There's only really several streets within the city of Darien that have those types of elevations.
And
Sawyer is one of them. Again, the couple of them that back up to Willowbrook are unincorporated on the west side, on the east side of town. There's some severe variations to that effect. So can they get a variation? Sure. Is it worth the expense? Again, that's another issue.
Mary?
I guess I was at a residence, very large yard with a fence already in existence. It's not a privacy fence, and it doesn't appear to be 6 feet, but the majority of the yard also has a natural, bushes, trees. So it's privacy, but it's because of trees and plantings. And would that be like a variance situation, or can that also be part of the fencing writing?
We did discuss that at the Municipal Services Committee, and one of the alternatives was arborvitaes. The committee, after long discussion, felt that it was better just to have a perimeter fencing around the entire lot versus any type of landscape screening.
Dan, I'm sorry, question, now that the fences are brought up, chicken coop could be 7 feet high, fences max is 6 foot high. So even if your elevation's perfect everywhere, the chicken fence will be up a foot over the fence.
That is correct.
And I'm not sure that, based on the last discussion, I want to make sure everybody understood that, because I was getting a little lost on the terrain issue.
Yeah, there was a rationale on the 7 foot fences. Basically, it was just a doorway. Your common doorway is 6'8". So from a convenience standpoint, that you have the opportunity to walk into your chicken coop without, not being hindered by something else.
Mary?
Is there a requirement or maximum for a shed height?
Yes. I believe it's, the 13 feet, 14 feet.
So it's significantly taller
Yes.
than that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Haven't heard from Alderman Shower. Oh, Ted?
All right. So the bottom line is before this whole situation came up, we've had chickens in the city of Darien forever and a day, correct? Pretty much? Okay. So now the situation is that the big problem was this one house. This one house that we're talking about near Darien Swim and Racket Club is going to be required to put up a fence to cover up around this area, correct? What we're looking to do so far. Or this is what the
ordinance
discussion
would
was.
require that, yeah.
Okay. So last week when you guys discussed this, you went over everything down to the whatever you came up with, right?
Correct.
Okay. So arbitrarily, if we're going to turn around and vote no to get rid of a bunch of chickens that have already been here, that's going to alienate a bunch of people that's already there. When it's not, I shouldn't say it's not a big issue, but it is very heartwarming to the people that have them. Okay. Alderman Belzak hit it on the head. Okay. We're not going to make everybody happy in this situation. We're not. Okay. We're not going to. But you guys came up with a plan to try and say, hey, this is what we need to do. Okay. If that's what you want to do, I have no problems with it. Let's try it and let's go with it. And, there's a couple homeowners that, some neighbors say, I don't want to see a chicken coop. And I get it. I understand it. So if we're going to turn around and make these changes and we can't see them from the front of the street, I think that's going to save people's home values, especially if they do go to sell it. So I'm in favor of it. So that's where I stand at.
Alderman Klista?
Oh, no, I just want to, for D&E, just to confirm, I'm in favor of what Alderman Kenny and Alderman Belchik said we have to find a median. I'm fine with the fence, and I think we have to, we start where we're at minimum. If we need to increase more requirements or regulation because something's not met, I think we can always go back and retouch it. So between D and E, just for like everyone voting, what's the main differences here? I see that one goes to page 196, 197.
The 200 to 150 total square feet, Dan.
Correct. Now, I'm sorry, what's the question there?
The difference between the two that we're voting on.
Difference between which two? D and E?
D and E, correct.
Well, D refers back to the structure, how big the structure can be.
Okay.
All right, so that's 150 square foot, and then E was basically all enclosures, again, referring to D, meant that has to be 20 feet from all the lot lines. And Mayor, I'd just like to clarify in regards to the fence question, we're not giving staff any administrative opportunities. Everything's at 6 foot high, correct?
I think what we're basically saying, Dan, is that it's a 6-foot fence that can't be seen through, and that as people come in and get their permits to have their fences, you'll be looking at the grade and whether or not they need a variation for that.
Correct. Okay.
I think Alderman Klistic, I think there's some confusion. He wasn't talking about D and E in the actual ordinance. He was talking about D and E on our agenda. There's a D that...
Yeah, consideration motion.
I'm
ordinance.
sorry. Yeah, I got D and E. I don't have the agenda in front of me. D was for
150 total square feet.
No.
The agenda.
D and E.
It was in case the council wanted to prohibit chickens altogether.
So D was prohibited.
Right, there was an
Okay.
alternative for the city council to consider, and that was prohibiting chickens altogether.
Gotcha. Yeah, I didn't see. I was looking for prohibit. I didn't see it on there. Okay.
We're not doing that. Brian?
Dan, one clarification, again, you gotta read them together, but it says all enclosures shall be located a minimum of 20 feet from all lot lines. But there's another section that says you can't have it you can only have it in the rear yard.
That is correct.
So if somebody reads that section by itself, it still doesn't mean you could have it in the front yard 20 feet away. So it's just, those two sections are important to note together.
Correct, and I believe that we had clarified that somewhere. Yeah,
It's very clear in here now, it's just a little bit, it's just a different section.
Yeah, F did address that all hens enclosure structures shall be kept located in the rear yard only. Okay, yeah.
Mary?
I guess, you know, one of the things I learned during my chicken education tour this weekend was, you know, they obviously have to be mindful of too much sun, not enough sun. Everyone's yard is shaped differently, sloped differently. A lot of people have, you know, wet parts of their yard versus others. So I guess being mindful of that, not everyone has, you know, I mean, there is a minimum allotment of a yard, which we feel most of our properties in Darien would adhere to. But some people have smaller yards. And if they put up a privacy fence, I think 20 feet on all sides is going to potentially really limit where they can place the coop. I think the least visible to anyone else would be like pretty much closer to their house. But I think going by the guidelines of what sheds are set back, I think 10 feet would be adequate versus 20 feet for the setback from lot lines. I don't know how everyone else feels about that.
No, I think 20 feet is, I'd even like to see more than 20 feet, but I think 20 feet should be a minimum.
Alderman Belzak?
Just procedurally. So the motion on the floor right now is to approve the ordinance as amended at the municipal services meeting. Procedurally, if we want to make changes to that, do we need to go through the ordinances and see if everyone's in agreement on what they are, which is basically what we did at municipal services, but now we got 7 people here, not 3 people here, and it might make the most sense to do it that way.
What we would need to do is, if you want to have a number of amendments, things you want to change, make one amending motion including all of them.
Understood, but in our discussion now, would it be prudent to go over all of them and see if at the end of our discussion we want to make...
Similar to what you did at municipal services.
Yes.
Why don't we do that? We're going to go through each item, Dan. You have a sheet that you...
Yes, I do.
So the audience knows this. This is requirements, permit fees, and penalties. Item A, the raising and keeping of hens shall be permitted on a single-family, detached single-family residential zoning lots containing a minimum of 6,000 square feet as an accessory use. Anybody have an issue with that?
This was unchanged from the original ordinance.
Right, that's from the original. That, there was no, most of our lots are 10,000 or more.
You want to do a hands up just to...
Yeah, how many, I want to see...
Just one quick question, just so we can make it super clear. This means by saying a single-family detached residential home, that eliminates townhomes.
Correct.
Right.
Okay, I just want to make sure that everyone's
And
clear on that.
multifamily, correct.
Provide them,
Family.
raise your hands. Okay. Item B, a maximum of 4 hens shall be permitted. How many approve that? I don't vote, so how many?
I'd like to see,
Pardon me?
I'd like to see more. At least one more.
Do you want to
6?
change that?
I could go to 6.
I can live with 6.
How many?
6.
6?
6.
Lester?
I would say 6.
Okay, 6. Okay, let's write that down so that when we make the amending motion, we include that. Item C, all hens shall be kept within a coop consisting of a covered enclosure structure with an attached cover enclosed outdoor area to prevent hens from encroaching onto neighboring properties. Everybody who agrees with that, raise their hand. Lester?
Yes.
Okay. Item D. Item C. Item D. An outdoor area, a minimum of 10 square feet per hen will be required and a maximum of 150 total square feet will be permitted for both the covered enclosure / structure and outdoor area, and the total height of a coop may not exceed 7 feet. How many approve that?
So 150 is the bare minimum you need.
Right.
And that includes
Maximum.
Maximum.
Item E, all enclosures, structures shall be located a minimum of 20 feet from all lot lines. How many approve? Please raise your hand.
Here's the question. If somebody's got a weird house, they can always apply for a variance, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Fine.
That's approved. Item F, all hens and enclosures, structures shall be kept located in the rear yard only. How many approve that?
Yes.
Okay. Item G, All areas where hens are kept shall be clean and well-maintained on a daily basis with little to no accumulation of waste. In addition, all areas where hens are kept shall not produce or cause odors that are detectable on adjacent properties. All electrical appurtenances shall be UL listed and clearly labeled. Everybody agree? Raise your hand.
I have an addition to that. I would like all feed that is kept outside to be kept in a sealed metal container.
Just beat me to it. I was going
All waste?
All feed that is kept outdoors must be kept in a metal sealed container.
All right, so that would be something we put it in there as a part of an amending motion. You have that, Dan?
Yes.
Okay. Item H, perimeter fencing 6 foot high, privacy solid fencing shall be required around the entire yard. Everybody approve? Raise your hand.
Dan, I know what it means reading it, but it's not the entire yard because you're not putting the fence in the front yard.
Rear yard.
Correct. It would be-
Entire rear yard.
So add rear in front of yard?
Well, fences are not
I mean,
allowed
it's
in the
already-
front
The
yard.
location of the fences are already regulated by the fence code.
Right, that's where we looked
I
at
know
it.
what I know what you mean by here,
Yeah.
but
I follow you. For the council members, we have a code in regards to fencing where a fence can be placed. So in other words, a fence cannot be placed beyond a building line of a residential property.
Okay.
Item I, humane conditions are to be maintained year-round. Any question there? Okay. Roosters are prohibited. Everyone agree?
Sure.
Slaughtering is prohibited. Everyone agree?
Yep.
Item L, no other poultry, including but not limited to geese, ducks, and turkeys, shall be kept on the property. Everyone agree? Item M, an initial hen permit shall be required for approval of hens, coops, and required fencing. Permit application shall be authorized by owner of the property. Permit authorizes city staff to inspect property for compliance when deemed necessary. Permit approval is required prior to obtaining hens. Privacy fence shall be installed prior to construction of the coop. Everyone agree with that?
And just to clarify, that if it's a renter, it has to be the homeowner.
That's correct. There's the guidelines and the handout sheet makes an owner responsible and
Okay.
sign off on it.
Okay.
Item N, a hen permit issued by the city with a one-time fee of $25 shall be required. A renewal permit registration shall be required each year thereafter with an additional fee of $10.
Can I ask a
One.
question?
Yeah.
That's just in overall versus not per hen. Is it per hen or is it?
Well, it's just overall.
Yeah, so it's not
They could
25
have 6
times.
hens and
Don't
it's
ask
still-
Mike Corin that question.
Yeah, Michael charge you per capita, so be careful there.
So it's for up to the number of hens we decide.
Right.
Okay?
Item O, a hen permit issued under this article shall be revoked upon the commission of 3 violations within a period of 12 months. Any revoked property shall not be granted a permit for 1 year. Everybody agree?
And that's
Raise
a,
your
and,
hands.
that, and like I said on Monday, that's a rolling 12. So it's not in 2020, 2021.
Right.
Okay.
What has to be done with the coop and stuff? If they lose the permit, does the coop have to be removed?
By default, you think they would remove it, correct? I mean,
Or they'll
we're
just
not-
want to wait out a year and let it, sit?
that opportunity is there if you want to be a little more strict, restrictive with the language that the coop will have to be removed. To be more specific, you would think by default, if the chickens were gone, that the coop will be gone as well.
I don't know what other people think.
I'm fine as is.
Okay. All right.
I'm thinking if you make them remove the coop, then they're going to make. I would think that they make sure that they're not going to be in violation, knowing if those chicks go that the.
Yeah.
Because if they want to come back and put that coop in, those coops are pretty expensive to put
Right.
back in.
Right.
So I don't know. I'd like to put that in there in the ordinance, just so they know that if they're coming out, that coop's got to go too.
Yeah.
Dan, you want to add that
Sure.
the coop has to be removed?
Because then it's going to be too easy for, if the coop is there, it's going to be too easy for them to go ahead and put, chickens back in there.
Right.
Item
that's a good
P,
point.
sale of eggs or hens or anything related to chicken keeping are not allowed. Everybody agree?
Yes.
Item Q, I think this is important. On or prior to May 1st, 2021, all non-conforming properties must be brought into conformance with the keeping of hens regulations of this article. This period is for all purposes deemed an appropriate amortization period for each and every non-conforming property presently located within the corporate limits of the city or hereinafter located within the city by reason of annexation into the city of the lot or parcel on which the uses are located. So everyone has till May 1st, 2021 to do this. What I'd like to add to that, and I'd like your opinion. As Joe Hennepin said the other night, it's real hard to get somebody out to do a fence right away. Usually takes a couple months. I would like to see something in there that said that we need to be notified by March 1st that they have an order to have a fence put in so that we know there's a commitment there to have that done. Mary, you were going to add something.
Well, I mean, I guess that's the thing. I mean, fence companies, anything to do with outdoor care of your home right now, they've got a tremendous backlog. I mean, if you decided you wanted to put a pool in, you might get a pool by next summer or fall. So I think we have to be realistic that people might secure the contract and the intent for a fence, but it won't be up by May 1st. But I think if they prove by May 1st that they've contracted for the fence or whatever, else, that should suffice.
That's why I'd like to see a March
Yeah.
1st date, because then I'd like to know by March 1st that they have made arrangements to have a fence. I don't want to know on May 1st that they may not make arrangements to let, the last
Then
day.
then it drags on, because,
in
they call
April.
you on May 1st, oh, sorry, it's going to take another, 3 months.
I think if you're going to put a date in there, you put March 1st in there and give them 2 months. They give us 2 months' notice that they've at least contracted to have it. And if they don't have it by May 1st, at least they showed good faith by saying they contracted for it.
Doesn't the ordinance say that you have to have the fence in before you can put the coops in, though?
Well,
Right?
that's for new ones.
That's
I
for
mean,
new ones.
you got a pre-existing condition here.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think March is a good date.
Is that okay?
Long day.
I think so.
Tom?
Yeah, it's fine as long as, how are we going to write that? I mean, so
Dan's
that it's,
problem.
See, that March 1st, that's only a one-time deal. That's not a forever thing that you're putting into the code.
Yeah, this one section here only really pertains to people probably who already have
chickens.
chicken coops.
Right.
I mean, let's say, for instance, by March 1st, Heather comes in and says, I have a contract to have a fence put in my backyard, and she shows us the contract or gives us evidence of that, then that's fine. Now, if anybody new comes in who wants to have chickens, and because there are people who've sent emails saying they want to start raising chickens in their backyard, then they have to follow everything else on here. Item Q really doesn't pertain to them.
Yeah.
Tom?
Just one item I wanted to mention. So if any resident want to come into a variance for any of these, they have to have a $200 fee to come to municipal services and go through the process, right? Would it be prudent to put a waiver for like the first year, so that maybe someone that didn't realize they have a humongous coop or a 3,000 square foot coop, and all of a sudden they have to make it smaller, and they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize, and now they have to comply. And I see potentially people backlogging and complaining about putting a $200 for a variance. What if we offer just first year 2021? If you come forward, you can we'll waive the fee for a variance. You still have to come to municipal services and through the process, but we would waive the fee for the first
Is
year.
that doable in your mind?
I'm sure that's doable, right? Again, we have to get the information out there and, keep in mind that we do not have a current inventory of chickens in the city of Darien. So the only ones that we're really aware of is people that have come to us and said, hey, here's what I have. So.
That fee does include, though, there's a notice requirement in the paper.
Correct, there's a legal law, yeah, there's a.
I think that's something we would eat then, under what I'm understanding.
Yeah, because I believe that cost is, and Joanne, correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't seen one in a while, $150 on the legal, do you recall?
I think it depends on the size of the public hearing notice.
Okay.
That's what it's based on.
So it's about $100, 150, I'll call it 150 maximum.
I think you're right.
Okay.
And are we discussing just non-complying current coops, not someone who leaves today and decides? he wants to have a
Correct,
coop?
correct.
Okay.
Current coops that we might not be aware of that come out and say, hey, you're enforcing this, I didn't know. And I can see headaches down the stream. So they'll go through the process, we can listen to them, and then they won't get hit with the fee the first year they come in. That's my thought.
So any item may have an opportunity for a variation, Alderman Calistic, is that what you're saying?
Correct, correct.
So if they don't want to put up a 6-foot fence, they can put up a 4-foot fence if it exceeds 150 square feet. I just want to make sure there's some game rules, because all of a sudden, we're going to have 10 potential variations that there's no cost to the resident.
And I would, correct. So I would always only say that the first year when people have to abide by the rule that you'd only offered for 2022, we wouldn't waive any of that for anyone coming in new or this or that.
Just for the
current
remainder
one.
of
Correct.
2021.
Correct.
Or should it piggyback to the May 1, 2021 date? You should know whether you want a variance by May 1, 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm
still
listing of the changes that we made.
And I'm sorry, Mayor Marquez, I'm a little confused on that March 1st deadline. I'm not sure where we're going to.
We want some evidence by March 1st that they contracted to have the privacy fence put around the backyard.
Okay.
We want to have evidence of that by March 1st. This way, then, it shows good faith.
Got it. Do we want to put that in the ordinance, or is that something that we can do as?
I think we put that in item Q.
Yeah.
Where it says on or prior to March 1st, 2021, residents will provide evidence of a contract to have a privacy fence erected in their backyard, whatever. And then you would say, on or prior to May 1st, all non-conforming properties must be brought into conformance. You got to clean it up a little bit, but I think that's what.
Sure, I understand.
What happens? If they don't give Dan something by March 31st?
March 1st.
I'm sorry, by March 1st, then we would issue a citation?
Or it's revoked.
Or their permit's revoked.
Well, no, because they might already have what they need. I think.
In that in that instance, there's residents out there that already have privacy fencing, but for example, the one resident right now, Melissa Goodridge, she would have to show us a good faith by March 1st that she's contracted with a company. If she doesn't contract with anyone and forgoes, then the city would revoke that permit. And she would be in default, in which case she would have to get rid of the coop and the chickens.
That's to say she got, are we giving a deadline for the permits for the hens? I mean, we didn't set up a deadline for how soon you.
We
have to
set
get
everything
permits.
up for May 1st, 2021, and again, it gives them an opportunity to come into compliance with square footage. We have the winter. We have the winter coming, and again, our rationale was that you really can't put a fence up during the winter months, and we're pretty close to that stage right now. Frost usually doesn't come out of the ground until that March 1st, March 1st or the middle of March. So that's why we were kind of cognizant to letting residents, digest everything and make plans accordingly. But I understand what the mayor's saying is to show the city officials that there's a good faith effort. Here's a contract that we're going to have it installed.
That's not, I don't believe it's a lot to ask. I think if people are intent on having this contracting, I mean, somebody may go out in February and contract with somebody to put the fence up And they may have it put up in
Get a better
March when the
price.
ground's not frozen anymore.
Sure, the applications are gonna be coming in, and again, we'll
Right.
develop a list that says, okay, required fence, by March 1st, they should be coming back in. Send us an email that's, here's a contract, we're scheduled to do it. Or there's nothing to say that homeowners can't put their own fences up either at the same
Well, they're gonna
time,
have to come
so.
in for a permit anyway.
Right, exactly.
And in Joe's case, some of them may need a variation, so they're gonna have to walk in here eventually to show a contract and to
Sure.
to ask for a variation, so why not March 1st?
But March 1st is for the fence.
It's for the fence.
But we're saying that everyone has till May 1st to conform with the ordinance.
To be
So
fully.
technically, everyone has till May 1st to get their permit for their hens.
Correct. And everything else in place. So there may be residents out there that might not even know that this ordinance is up and coming just due to whether or not they're part of the social media or not.
We made a couple of changes. Tom, did you make a record? You made? Just smiling at it, even through your mask.
I have them. I can run through them.
Yeah, one.
Well, excuse me, but first of all, you're also going to need a motion
We need a
for the
motion.
amendment and a
We need to know what
second to
we're
make
amending,
the.
though.
First,
Right.
we're gonna need a motion to amend, which is gonna include these items. We need a second. We need to vote on the amending motion. When we voted and approved that, then we need to go back and vote on the original.
Correct.
So what, somebody make an amending motion, the analyst,
I'll make a motion for the amendments.
okay? Dan?
I'll just run through the items.
Second?
Can we just get a recap before we make a formal amendment?
That's where we're going.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were
discussion. No.
making the amendment.
He's making an amending motion, Erica's seconding it, Dan's gonna note the things that were amended.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so I'll just go over the changes. B will be a maximum of 6 hens. H, all feed shall be kept in a sealed container.
I
Metal.
thought it was metal.
Metal,
Metal.
I'm sorry.
I think that was G, wasn't it?
That's what I thought.
Was it G or
It was,
H?
it was
No, it
G.
was G.
G. I'm sorry, it is G, yes.
Yeah.
Next one was item O. Any structure or any coop/structure shall be required to be removed within 15 days. I just put a timeline to that.
Okay.
And Q, last one. On or prior to March 1st, residents will be required to show proof of contract for privacy fencing.
We have a motion and a second to amend the ordinance. We have the roll.
Clistic,
Aye.
Gustafson,
Aye.
Shower, Vaughn,
Aye.
Sullivan,
Aye.
Kenny,
Aye.
Belzak,
Aye.
7 ayes.
Now we're gonna go back and vote on the original motion to approve the ordinance. with
Correct.
The amendment. with the
As amended.
No, just
No, just
You have to
the
vote.
original, the first one was the amendment. Now this is for the regular.
This is for the,
this is like you say no to it because we already said yes to the amended.
right, we said yes to the amended. Now we're voting on the original motion in second.
Can I withdraw that motion?
Pardon me?
Can I withdraw that motion so that the amended, do we need to go through this procedurally?
Procedurally.
If I withdraw my motion and whoever withdraws their second, then we'll be voting on
Nothing.
what we've just done.
No, the amendment will go into place if we approve the original with language changes.
Right.
It'll be okay.
Okay.
She knows the rules.
Oh, so now we're voting on the original
And the
motion
original
as
motion they
amended.
came forward,
was
they
just
brought
amended.
discussion.
As amended, right.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
Roll call?
Belzak.
Aye.
Clistic.
Aye.
Gustafson.
Aye.
Kenny?
Aye.
Shower?
Aye.
Sullivan?
Aye.
Vaughn? Seven ayes.
All right, so the motions, it's been approved. We've approved an ordinance for the raising of chickens within the city of Darien. We will get this information out. How, Brian? How are we gonna-
Everything available to us, I mean, all the social media, and that's all we do.
Now, are we dealing at all with the next item then? So we're not dealing with item on our agenda.
Do we still have to vote on it, or
It'll just be failed,
failed?
Okay.
because there's no motion.
Right.
No motion. All right, that concludes the agenda. It takes us to questions, comments, and announcement of a general nature. Do any of the aldermen have anything for the council? Alderman Belzak.
For Halloween this year, the Darien Lions Club will not be having their traditional Halloween party at the sports complex. Instead, they will be doing a trunk or treat at the Darien Swim and Racket Club parking lot between 1 and 4 on Saturday, October 31st.
Mary?
The Darien Rotary Club's Food for Kids is starting back up again, and they are going to be having a packing program tomorrow. They have two shifts from 4 to 5 and 5 to 6 at Lay School. They're asking people to please sign up and that you be, following all protocol, wearing masks, and be aged 12 or older. They still have some spots available. It's an amazing program. It's a great opportunity for high school students to get service hours, so I highly recommend it. I will be there from 5 to 6. And on October 30th, Hinsdale South High School will present The Wizard of Oz. This will be a radio show broadcasted. Normally in the fall, they do a amazing live musical, but a radio show will be broadcast on October 30th by the Hinsdale South Drama Department.
Anyone else? Anyone in the audience have anything they'd like to share? If not, I ask for a motion to adjourn. Oh, I'm sorry. You need to come forward.
For those with more than 6 chickens, can I ask this question? Is
go
the
back
discussion
down to
closed already?
Yeah.
You have till May 1st to conform with 6 children.
Okay, I was gonna ask if we have more than that, do we have to get rid of them, or do we just wait until they just pass?
This is a variation if you want to
Okay.
go through a process.
Okay,
For
thank
first
you.
year is a variation you could bring to council and
Thank
we'll
you.
discuss at the individual level, if I'm correct.
Motion to adjourn. So moved. Second by Alderman Kennedy. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Thank you, everyone.
Who was the first on that?